Hey everyone, Tony D and Little Joan has joined me because we're going walkie soon. But first, we have to talk about the tale of two states, or a state and a city. I'm not sure. Ron DeSantis, a governor of Florida, has is trying to pass new laws, or did pass them? Are they passed? Their new legislation to stop violent assemblies and protect law enforcement. Now, Tim Pool already went through this, but I'd like to give my perspective. New criminal offenses to combat rioting, looting, and violence. As I see it, you don't really need too many extra laws here. Generally, in the libertarian sense, I'm against more laws because they always end up coming back to bite you in the ass because you end up applying them in different ways. But let's see what they are. Prohibition on violent or disorderly assembles, third-degree felony when 7 or more persons are involved that cause damage and property or injury to other persons. Again, it's already illegal. I don't know why we need another rule. Prohibition on obstructing roadways, third-degree felony to obstruct traffic during unpermitted protest, demonstration, or violent disorderly assembly. Driver is not liable for injury or death caused if fleeing or for safety from a mob. I think that last part is probably necessary. I don't know about the first part because that could be construed in different ways, right? It could be construed that, we had a protest and somebody left a bunch of garbage on the street in the middle of the protest. Oh, yeah, we don't like this protest, so we're going to say that that's obstructing the roadway. That's the problem with it. But, saying that the driver is not liable for injury or death if you get attacked by a mob, yeah, I think that is a necessary law, a necessary addition, if you will. Prohibition on destroying or toppling monument, sure. Second-degree felony to destroy public property during a violent or disorderly assembly. I think it should be specific to monuments and statues, but if it extends to public property, does that mean the trash cans and the park benches and all those things? It could get, again, a little bit extended. Like, what if in the process of, shouting and screaming, I trip and fall, I land on a park bench and I break it? I mean, am I to be charged with a second-degree felony just because I did it during a protest? Again, this could be the cops. They will stretch, and prosecutors will stretch the definition of these laws. So you have to be very careful. Prohibition on harassment in public accommodations. First-degree misdemeanor. Misdemeanor seems more appropriate. For a participant in a violent or disorderly assembly to harass or intimidate people at a public accommodation such as a restaurant. Yeah, this addresses what's been happening. Perfect. RICO liability. RICO liability attaches to anyone who organizes or funds a violent or disorderly assembly. Boom. I told you. I would argue that RICO's already in the mix. These people cross state lines, and I went through the RICO statutes. I think they already apply, but this clarifies it. So I think yes. Increased penalties? No. I'm against that. Mandatory minimum jail sentence? No. Striking law enforcement officer, including a projectile during a violent or disorderly assembly. Well, what if I'm at a peaceful protest and I blow bubbles at the cop like the hippies used to do, right? And a bubble hits him and he goes, "Oh, my eye," and he decides, you hit me with a bubble. I'm gonna, throw you in jail for 6 months. I think that's the problem with this. I'm not down with mandatory minimums ever. The whole point of the judicial system is to let a jury and the judge decide your fate, and they need flexibility. Now, you can't have it both ways. You can't have that flexibility and let people off. You also have the flexibility of bad judges and bad juries letting people off, too. So you can't, if you want mandatory minimums, you might as well just have a computer be the judge. You input what the person did, beep, 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 beep. This is your sentence, goodbye. That's what I think we're headed to, unfortunately. Part of the reason I think we have too many laws is this. I've always said comedy is a shared experience. Well, the judicial system was based on not a shared experience, but a shared set of values, which is very similar, right? So you didn't need these kinds of specific laws, say in the 40s and 50s. There was a shared experience, a shared set of values that most people in America had. Even though you had more people coming from out of the country joining us, generally it was an American system. It was mostly American. Americans kind of believed in mostly the same things, with a few exceptions, a few points of contention, but not a lot of different contention. Now we have this wide swath of people. Like back in the day, the thought of someone hitting a police officer or mouthing off to a teacher or disrespecting authority in any way was an anthem to most people. Even when I was young, like my parents, if the school called them, they wouldn't immediately think, what did these teachers do to my kid? Their first thought would be, what did I do? And I was a good kid. Like I was a straight A student, totally good kid, total nerd. But they still thought that way. Oh, well, obviously it was him and not the teacher. Now we have this situation, when I know people who substitute teachers beside myself. I had a friend who subbed. He made an offhand comment to a student. Students were whining. They get bathroom time, water time, snack time, whenever they want now. These teachers let them run amok. He was running a class like that, and the kids weren't doing their work, so he said, okay, no more bathroom, water, or snacks until you finish your work. And they were screaming because he's the substitute. They think they can get away with stuff. And finally, one of the kids said, well, if I don't have food, I'll starve, like a smart-ass kid would. And his response was, well, then I'll guess you starve. Well, that kid, as it so happened to be, knew someone on the board of a school board or whatever. They wrote a letter as if that was not a flip comment from a substitute teacher, but as an actual thing he said. And he was let go. And this is the problem. See, people with shared values would say, did you say that? They would yell at their kid first. They would assume the adult was in charge, that the adult was right, that the adult wouldn't lie. Now we have a topsy-turvy world in which people will defend their kids all day long. Now, that doesn't mean kids don't deserve to be defended on occasion, but for the most part, if you've ever met kids, they'll lie through their teeth to get out of work. And so we have parents who also grew up that way, and now they're raising kids poorly, and those antics are flooding the school system, and they're flooding the regular, judicial system, because these same people grow up and they have the same stupid problem. They have no respect for authority, and they do whatever the hell they want, and they say, well, I don't feel I did anything wrong. Why are you arresting me? It's because they haven't been taught, and they don't have a shared value anymore. So consequently, we have all these laws because of these idiots keep pushing their luck, and then the politicians finally say, all right, people have had enough of this. I'm going to make 10 million laws to micromanage every little thing you do. That's why this is happening. Anyhow, offense enhancements. For throwing an object during a violent or disorderly assemble that strikes a civilian or law enforcement officer. I don't know how you define civilian. Is the people in the riot count as civilians? Assault and battery of law enforcement officer during this stuff's already illegal. Participate in violence or disorderly assembly by an individual from another state. Well, that's already illegal. You cross state lines, it's a federal crime. Citizen and taxpayer protection measures. No defund the police permitted. Well, thank you. That's probably needed. Prohibits state grants or aid to any local government that slashes the budget for law enforcement services. Well, we'd have to define what slashes mean. But generally, I would be okay with this, assuming slashes doesn't mean, any cut to the budget. Assuming that means like 50%. Like 50% is too much. Even if you plan to eventually cut the budget back by 50%, you don't want to just cut it right away. You would want to, ratchet it down. Victim compensation. Waives sovereign immunity to allow a victim of a crime related to a violent or disorderly assembly to sue local government for damages where the local government is grossly negligent in protecting persons and property. Well, that's probably not going to be Florida, but good. Government employment benefits terminates state benefits, and makes anyone ineligible for employment by state and local governments if convicted of participating in a violent or disorderly assembly. Yeah, I could see that. I would add violent or disorderly assembly against said government. Right? If you are violent, and it has to be violent. But again, I think they're going to stretch the terminology of this. See, again, you got to watch these laws. This could come back to bite you in the butt. Imagine Biden gets in. Now you got people objecting to the onerous taxes and regulations they start passing, and they start, protesting. Well, now they're going to call it disorderly because, people were shouting and it was 4 a.m. or whatever. Oh, it was it was violent because somebody fell down and got hurt. See, they'll stretch it. And that's, unfortunately, the problem with having so many laws on the book. But I would say government employees should stay out of the political stuff outside their life too. Because look, if you're a government employee and you're going out to protest all the time and getting involved in politics or whatever, I think there's a limit to how much you can do. I mean, you're not supposed to do it with teachers, and they do it. You're not supposed to do it with cops. They do it, and they're unions. I think it creates a conflict of interest. I think if you work for the government, you should basically be apolitical and go along with any government that's basically there, unless it's, some kind of crazy tyrant who's doing something, illegal. But, I don't think you should be out and about saying smash the state if you work for the DMV. Bail. No bond or bail until first appearance in court if charged with a crime related to participating in a violent or disorderly. See, I don't like the word disorderly. That can mean a lot of things. Assembly. Rebuttable presumption against bond or bail after first appearance. Yeah, violent, yes. Disorderly, I don't know. But the RICO thing, yes, and you can understand why they're doing this. This is a direct response to it's a direct response to Antifa, but ultimately it'll end up being applied to peace activists and other people who you want to see protest, who will have a peaceful assembly, but they'll say, oh no, it was disorderly and violent. There was a fight. Oh, those people weren't in our protest. Doesn't matter. It was violent. They were there. And then contrast this, Florida, which, isn't having that many problems with Minneapolis. Dismantle police pledge. Minneapolis council members have regrets. Really? You have regrets about abolishing the police? Members of the Minneapolis City Council have expressed regrets about the early summer pledge to end the Minneapolis Police Department. Well, I guess you do, dummies. How the heck are you going to run a city without a police department? My God, have you lost your minds? Did you not think for a second of what this would do to people? Oh, no, it'll be fine because, you see, we have cops now, and things are fine, but if we get rid of them, it's not like the criminals read the newspapers. Excuse me, they do. And they keep very good tabs on what is happening to the police departments, in case you don't know. In fact, most of them know the law better than your average citizen because they're constantly in trouble. And so the moment you announced defunding the police, they all went, ooh. And then when you announced abolishing the police, they all went, hey, 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 hey. They were gearing up to do all sorts of shenanigans, you morons. Of course they would. They know the cops. They know their schedules. They know how they patrol. They know everything about the cops because they have to be on the lookout for them when they commit their crimes. The moment they announced defund the police was the moment they said, okay, keep watching the cops. Let's see how it changes things. And then the moment they cut back on their patrols, oh, they kicked it up. They kicked it up. Dude, we're going to have guys on the corner till 2 a.m.? Yeah, the cops don't patrol anymore. Excellent. And then when they said abolish the police, hell, the cops barely even come down here anymore. And if they do, just scream that you're being harassed because you're black or Latino or whatever you are. That, believe me, the criminals are on top of this. This is the one thing they're on top of constantly because this is part of doing business for them. You, idiots, decided to take the pressure off them, and they immediately start expanding operations. My God, the amount of places they must be robbing, left and right, they're robbing places. I mean, during those riots, they've been perfect time to knock over jewelry stores and whatever. You get a gang, you go in, you smash the place, you pretend to be rioters, you go in, you rob it. You know, you leave some merchandise there and say, hey, everybody, racist owns that store. And they all go in and like, are they going to come looking for you? Are they even going to know you robbed the place? No. They'll assume it got looted. Somebody will probably torch it. Boom, you're off the hook. Now you got 57 widescreen TVs to sell. And a lot of people got robbed and their houses burned down. And, well, you got a place, you got something to sell. And you got them for free, so you don't sell them at full price, obviously. You sell them at a cut rate, you'll unload them in a matter of days. God, you're so stupid. You're so stupid, Minneapolis City Council. I cannot believe how stupid you are. Councilor Andrew Johnson, one of the 9 members who supported the pledge in June, said in an interview that he meant the words in spirit, not by the letter. Another councilor, Felipe Cunningham, said that the language in the pledge was up for interpretation. And that even amongst council members, soon after a promise was made, it was very clear, quote unquote, that most of us had interpreted the language differently. Very, very politician-y of you to say this. Yeah, now you're going to have everybody hating you. The people who wanted the police hate you because you dared to announce these idiotic plans. And the people who want to defund and abolish the police, oh, they totally hate you. They won't be satisfied until you have full-blown communism in the city and you're handing out checks to everybody. And even then, they won't be happy, by the way. They'll complain you don't give them enough money. The rise in gun violence has likely played a role in shaping public opinion on the dismantle or defund police movement. An August poll found that the majority of Minneapolis residents do not support reducing the size of the city's police force. Duh! The poll was conducted and published by news partners at Star Tribune, Minnesota Public Radio, and KARE 11. I don't know what that is. Read the full New York Times feature on Minneapolis, and there's a link. So there you have the tale of two governments. One government, state government, they're not messing around. They're locking it down. They're not going to tolerate Antifa running around in their antics. They pretty much made laws against every specific Antifa tactic. So good. Some of them I disagree with, and some of them will probably be stretched to, unbelievable limits. But I understand why they're doing it. At least those places won't get torn up. Minneapolis, I mean, I would never move there. Who would? I don't know why you would. Dismantle the police? Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? Right after a riot? It would be different if you had years and years of peace and crime-free streets, and then you said, "Oh, really? We're wasting a lot of money. Let's defund the police." No, okay, all right. So you have regrets. Well, now you got a big mess on your hands because everybody's mad at you, and good, because I think the city council needs to be ousted, and a whole new city council has to come in. A group of adults who won't, with backbones, who won't immediately collapse the moment people get upset with the cops, but also won't be authoritarian a-holes that turn the place into a police state. Although you may have some kind of temporary police state just to get these people back in line, because there's going to be a lot more crime in the days to come, Minneapolis, but probably not in Florida.